So welcome again. Yes, welcome again to Getting's grad school and scholarship interviews. And we're going to be teaching you today how to ace them. Welcome everyone. Loving all the people telling us where they're from. Please keep it coming. So for those of you who are Get Insiders, you already know all the amazing things that we do at Getting. But for those of you who are new, we're going to give you some insight into what we do. So we support hundreds of applicants each year in achieving their graduate school dreams. And yes, that includes you too. You who is just starting out in the process, who is interviewing, who has applied, waiting for decisions, it includes you too. We've been able to help scholars secure over $5 million in funding and counting. We are most known for the graduate school application bootcamp. I mean, we've had over 1,400 bootcampers since 2019. It's an intensive 3 months of learning, but we absolutely love it. There's all kinds of things from SOP reviews, interview prep, scholarship webinars, and so much more. Our scholars have gotten into schools around the world, from Harvard to Oxford to UC Berkeley, you name it. And then we have numerous scholars who have gotten scholarships also, the famous Erasmus, Commonwealth shared. You guys, just think of any scholarship, think of any school. I'm sure that a Get Insider is there. So we are going to get started by introducing to you our guest speaker. Again, I know some of you guys know her, but I mean, we're proud of her, so we're going to keep introducing her to you every day. So I'm going to pass it on to Miriam to introduce herself, and then we'll go ahead to get started.
Oh my goodness. Hi, folks. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Miriam Amodu. I'm the founder of Getting Edu. Some of you might know me, some of you might not. So I'm just going to give a very quick overview of my profile. I studied law in Nigeria. I went to the Nigerian law school. I did my master's at the University of Cambridge on a Commonwealth scholarship. And then I'm doing a PhD at the University of Toronto. I got the Vanier scholarship, the PO scholarship, the Delta Kappa Gamma scholarship. I've gotten a couple of all these things. And, along my journey, I was like, look, if I can do this, I don't really think I'm that special, right? Maybe I work hard quite all right. But my point is if I could do it, I believe that anyone can achieve the same thing. Anyone can achieve similar results. Anyone can get a scholarship. Anyone, can pretty much upgrade their lives using education if they're ready to put in the work. And that's why I'm here. So I was like, okay, let's do something about this. And so I founded Get In. And since 2018, we have been helping people get into, top schools, Oxford, Harvard, Cambridge, everywhere. We're everywhere. Get the top scholarships. We're perhaps what I would say one of the leading training organizations when it comes to helping Africans develop themselves. And so today, I'm here to talk to you about interviews, right? But it's very important that we know why we're having this session and what exactly you can expect. Can you go to the next slide, please? So today we're going to be, looking at the pre-interview preparation, because when you're having interviews, it's not just like, oh, yes, interview, that's it. No, we have the pre-interview preparation. We're going to talk about acing the interviews. We're going to talk about, frameworks for answering interview questions. The only request I have from you, and I'm being very honest in that you're going to get a lot from this session. I'm going to share personal experience with you guys, and then we're going to go into the session. But the only thing I'm going to ask from you as we get started is I want you to give us a shout out on social media. So I want you to take the registration link that you joined. Can somebody post it in the comments, please, and say, can you post a comment, that they can literally copy the entire comment and post on social media. So if you're on Instagram, we're at Getting Edu, just share post and say, oh, come join us for this interview session. Amaka is going to paste comments that you can copy and post on Twitter. I really think it's important that we share this knowledge as widely as possible. If I were to put a price to this session, I can assure you it's going to be so expensive, but I don't want to do that. I want us to be able to help each other grow and ace, our interviews and get to the next level. So that's my only request. And I'm going to be looking out on social media for those of you who tag us. Now, this is my personal experience. When I did my master's at Cambridge, I got invited for an interview at one of the biggest law firms in the world, in their London office. And if you know anything about working as a lawyer in London, like I'm gonna be real and say, like, you know, it's a great experience, right? It's a once in a lifetime experience. So what happened? I went to the interview. I was so nervous. Like, bear in mind, they invited me for the interview, which means that I was good enough for them. And that's something you need to understand. If you get invited for an interview, it means that on paper, you're good enough. And it's up to you to throw the opportunity. You understand? I'm going to ask you to mute yourself. This is a very important section. People are going to be getting life-changing tips that's going to help them land their next job. That's going to help them. Glory, please, can you mute? Thank you. That's going to help them land their Oh my goodness. Please, let's mute ourselves. Please, let's, be respectful of others and mute ourselves so that we can enjoy this session. So, as I was saying, if you get invited for an interview, it means you are already good enough on paper. So if you already have an interview lined up, I want you to go with the mindset of this job, this graduate school opportunity, this whatever is already mine. Do you understand? It means you are good enough on paper. And I'm going to talk to you, and that's why you're going to see that the first thing on the agenda is a mindset shift. Because if you're not going with the right mindset, if you're not going with the right mindset, you're not going to know how to progress. No, Faye, let's go back. I'm still gonna, run us through the agenda. So here I was in London. I'm not gonna say how old I was, but I was there, very green, just fresh from Nigeria, and I was getting interviewed at this huge law firm that had like an American office, and it was fantastic. I was so nervous. When I got there, I started yarning nonsense. Like, I literally. And I think I'm someone who is very confident, right? But I didn't know how to manage an interview. When they were asking me about something, I said, you see, in Nigeria, we have traditional rulers. I don't even know, they were asking me something about corporate finance. I'm serious, guys. And then I was like, we have traditional rulers that when the traditional rulers are, I was saying nonsense. I was trying to talk about regulation and the fact that, we have different types of laws. We have like the federal, the state, and then local, and then we have like culture. I said nonsense. And to make it worse, immediately I entered the interview, my bag fell open. All the contents of my bag fell on the floor. So it was horrible. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was horrible. And I obviously lost that opportunity, right? That same period, I got another interview. I didn't get the opportunity as well because I didn't know how to prepare. Fast forward a few years, I now work with the biggest law firm in the world. And I'm not going to lie to you, the strategies that I am going to teach you today, that's what landed me that offer. I went to University of Toronto. You understand, I'm doing my PhD there. These are the strategies that landed me those opportunities. Do you get me? I'm so confident that if you take what I teach you today and you take it to heart, there is no place you are going to sit and talk to people and they will not say, yes, sir, yes, ma, this opportunity is yours. So if you don't have a pen and if you don't have paper, go get it. You understand? Because we're done with throwing our opportunities away because we don't know how to prepare for interviews. It's not happening anymore. Do you understand me? So another thing you guys need to know is I'm very interactive. So if I'm not seeing the comment section buzzing, there's a problem. I'm coming with all the energy. So I need to see that energy in the comment section. If I say something that makes sense, say, right on, Miriam. If I'm saying something that doesn't make sense, say, stop that, Miriam. So I'm going to need you to, in that comment section, share your own experiences. Let me know how things are going with you. Let me know if I'm making sense, if you don't like what I'm saying, if I should redirect, if I should switch it to Pidgin, if I should try Chinese. Just let me know how you like it. Now, what's the agenda for today? We're going to talk about pre-interview preparation. And I want you to take your time to understand that every aspect of this is necessary. Don't just say, oh, where are the questions? Where are the questions? Take your time to learn everything. You understand? Because it's a full package. By the time we're done with you, we repackage you and you go for your interview. People are going to be in Nigeria, you're like, so mama they'll be eating your plantain. It means like you're literally gonna be like hot cake, sort of like that's like the equivalent of, you're gonna be a hot cake. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is acing the interviews. Then I'm going to teach you a framework, tested and what? Trusted, for answering interviews. And then we're going to talk about funding, and how you can access funding, ask for funding during interviews. So you really want to stay to the end. Again, I'm begging you, I'm not even trying to post. Please post us on social media, let people register, let them join us. This is going to be such a packed session, and I know that you're going to benefit from it. So let's move to the next slide. Right, so why exactly do you have interviews? One thing that is very common that people say is, if you don't know the purpose of something, it can be abused. An interview is not just for them to see your face or to see that you're a human being, like, oh, someone submitted this, oh, this person exists, nice, well done, thanks for coming, goodbye. That's not the purpose of an interview. The purpose of an interview, for especially for graduate school, everything I'm saying, you can also use it for a job interview, to be honest. But I'm going to focus more on the graduate school dimension. They want to establish that you are a right fit for the program. You understand? They want to also confirm the details in your documents you've submitted. They want to see if you are the best of all the candidates or the options that they have. See, everybody is kind of a little selfish, right? The school wants the best, you want the best. So they're going to compare you with other people to make sure that you're the best candidates for them. They also want to put a face to the document and assess your interpersonal skills. Honestly, an interview is less about whether you can calculate algebra or whether whenever I say science stuff, I just say nonsense. Whether you know the trisom, whatever of the chromosomes, or you can titrate whatever, it's not really about that. They want to see what motivates you. They want to feel your energy. They want to know who you are. They want to know if you're driven, which is why if you go to an interview with low energy, it is over. You can't go to an interview and just be like, yes, thank you for having me here. I'm very grateful. Yes, when I was in university, that's not how to have an interview. Because half of what they're assessing is your energy and your potential as well to succeed in the position that is on offer. Now, for people who are introverts, you might find this a little bit difficult, like, how am I going to, like, I'm not very extroverted, I don't really talk as much, whatever. You have to, if it's that you will become an actress, you need to become Halle Berry, you need to become Charlize Theron, you need to become, whoever. For the period of that interview, that's who you need to be able to, ensure that you're passing across that energy. Now, bear in mind that a lot of us are doing virtual interviews. So this also works for the physical interviews, but I'm going to focus more on virtual because I think that's the reality for most of us. So now that you understand the purpose of an interview, you know how you should approach them. Okay? I'm not saying the comments, or nothing. No. Hey, nothing in the comments. Wow, okay. No problem. Let's call it a day, maybe. I don't think it's happening. Maybe it's not happening today. I'm still looking at the comment section. I'm still looking. Okay, good. Okay, you guys wake up. I need to know you are here. Okay, next slide. So, do we know the purpose of an interview? Yes. Now, the first thing about interviews is mindset. I've already talked about the most important part, which is that for you to cross the interview stage, it means you have value. I need to emphasize it. You have value. If I had known this when I was interviewing, when I went for those interviews in London, I was intimidated. I'm not going to lie. I was intimidated. I was a little scared. Like, I was just like, hey, even though I had such an excellent, background, I didn't believe I was an odogu, which is actually what I am, and that's exactly what you are. For you to get to the next stage, it means they looked at other people and said, all these people, no. This person, yes. So I need you to, first of all, tell yourself, I am valuable. Type it in the comment section. I am valuable. And if you haven't gotten to the interview stage and you're thinking of how to prepare your documents, that's why we have the graduate school bootcamp, right? There is no way you go through the bootcamp, implement what we teach in the bootcamp, and they will not be calling you left, right, and center. It's impossible. So if you're at the interview stage, or you think you're going to get an interview get an interview soon, the first thing you need to say to yourself is that you are valuable, because there are already some people that they told them that you are not even worth it. Do you understand? The lion is there. Exactly. I'm the emperor, the champion, the lion. Rah! I like that. You're valuable. Now, and you are valuable, you are an asset. So you need to place that value on yourself. When you place that value on yourself, I've been on the other side of the interview table, and trust me, people want people of value. Schools want people of value. You understand what I'm saying? So you need to make sure that you believe it, because if you don't believe it, you cannot convince someone else that you are valuable. Now, the other thing you need to do, and this will help your mindset, is that an interview is a two-way process. It's not just them interviewing you. You're also, now that you know you have value, you understand, you're also interviewing them to see if they deserve you. I know in the grad school situation, it might seem like, maybe you have only just one interview in one school and they're your everything. I get it. And that might be the case, but you can't let that show. You understand? You need to make it clear that I know I have my value, so therefore I need to see that you are deserving of having me in your school. The other thing you need to do is kill imposter syndrome with receipts and evidence. Again, in the past, I don't think I have imposter syndrome anymore, because once it comes up like this in my mind, like, oh, Miriam, you're not good enough for this, I kill it. I start reciting all the things that I have done. I start looking at all the challenges that I've overcome. So if you're feeling like you're not confident, go through your resume, sit down and think about all the things that you've been able to achieve in your career, in school, and say, look, if I was able to do this, it means I can do that. If I was able to do this, it means I can, if I was able to do that, it means I can do this. So you need to go to this interview with an extremely positive mindset. Now, when you're getting ready for an interview, there's the mindset dimension. There's also the physical dimension, right? So what are you going to wear? I find that on a virtual setting, it's a little bit complicated. Sometimes you're not just sure, but me, I err on the side of like caution, right? So think about it, like for a grad school interview, you may not really want to wear a whole suit. You get what I'm saying? Because it's not a position that requires you to wear a suit to go to school. Like for an MBA interview, you understand what I'm saying? That may be different. So for like a regular like grad school position, I would wear a very decent shirt. I may not wear like a suit. I may wear a tie if I'm a man. I may not wear like a suit with like it depends on the vibe also of the school, right? If I had like an interview with Oxford, I probably would wear a tie and be over prepared, and my tie would be blue. You get what I'm saying? Like you always need to, when you're dressing, even choose the colors of the school that you're trying to apply to. Like those are the kind of little details you have to pay attention to, and that's what I do. And if you have the opportunity to talk, and you have an opportunity to even joke, it's something like I said, look, like, I even went out of my way to get the colors to kind of show you guys how interested I am, in being part of your organization. Ha, 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 ha. Everybody laughs and they feel comfortable. Now, one thing I want to also mention is that you don't have to wear a suit for an MBA interview. Honestly, you don't. But I always feel like I would just rather be extra than to be under. Like I wear a shirt and everybody else has worn a suit. I'd rather be the only one that wears a suit and everybody else has worn a shirt. Do you understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, wear something that you're comfortable in. So like this, I could wear this for like a grad school interview. It's covered as a woman, it's covered, it still gives a bit of a professional vibe. It's not like flowery, it's a cool, strong color. So whatever, at the end of the day, make sure you're wearing something that you're comfortable in the most. I also wanted to say something about, you interviewing the organization, and we're going to talk about this more later, is the fact that your interviewer is actually also nervous. People don't think about this. Your interviewer is actually also nervous. They don't know who they're going to meet. They don't know how it's going to go. They also want to give a positive impression of their organization or of the school. So your interviewer is always, most times, also a little bit nervous. And we're going to talk about how that can play to your advantage. Now, these are just some logistical things. You know, if you're in a place where you don't really have electricity supply, please, you don't want to have, you know, electricity, you know, and things like that, like internet, you know, messing up your interview. You have to really make sure that you have a plan A, plan B, plan C, you know, put your phone on do not disturb, you know, find a good light. And when I had my job interview for the job that I had, it was a virtual interview, I put on ring lights. I'm so sorry. And let me tell you what it does. It actually shows that you're making an effort to look presentable compared to other people who did not. I put on my ring lights. I positioned, like, now this camera is a little bit like down. You need to actually position yourself like this, right? So you need to put books or something on top of your laptop so that you are actually eye to eye with the camera, right? Because when you're like this, you're looking down into the camera, you don't have as much of a connection as when this is not even so low, but some people, they're literally looking down like this. You need to make sure that you put some books or something, so you are literally eye to eye level because you're not in person. Obviously, find a place with great lighting, you know, or use an external form of lighting. And if it's a telephone interview, make sure there's no background noise. But for a telephone interview, one thing you need to know is that you have to be extraordinarily excited on the phone because they cannot see you. They can only hear you. So when you have a telephone interview, just make sure you're like, oh, hello. Oh, very nice to meet you. I've been so excited to talk to you about, you know, I've been waiting to talk to you for so long. I'm so excited that we're here today. You know, you really have to sound enthusiastic because they cannot see you. Like if I'm saying, oh, I'm so excited to see you. This is amazing. You know, you can see me. You can see that I'm actually smiling. But when it's on the phone, you can't see that. So you need to make sure that your energy level is high. Now, other things that I do before interviews, just to give you an idea, one of the things I do is I take about an hour plus before my interview. I'm dressed, I'm all of that, and I play music, whatever it is that works for you, right? I play music, I play specific type of music. I don't know what faith you are, you know, but I play very empowering music. I also go in front of a mirror. I know it sounds very silly, but I promise you it works. And I hype myself. You tell yourself, look, I am great. I am good. This position is mine. I was made for this position. The interviewers love me. I know what I'm talking about. I will not be confused. You know, say all those positive things to yourself in front of a mirror. Get yourself hyped. Do power poses. So you'll be like, you know, I am powerful, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like just hype yourself in front of a mirror. It helps a lot with making sure that your energy level is high. There was a point I wanted to make, but it skipped my mind. So those are some of the things that you need to do prior to the interview that haven't had nothing to do with like research. You need to make sure that your energy is right. Now, we're moving on to the interview. The first tool of anyone who is going to be successful at an interview is research. That is the first tool. If you like, hype yourself to eternity. If you like, you understand what I'm saying? Wear the finest suit. If you've not done specific type of research that is going to distinguish you, I remember the point I was going to make, and I'm going to make it right now before I forget. That is going to distinguish you from other people. If you haven't done that research, it's going to be hard to stand out. And I'm going to show you how to do that research in a way that you actually stand out. But before then, one of the things I want to mention, just in passing, one of the tips, one of the things I've learned along the way, is that when you're in an interview, if you've been asked a question and you are answering, and let's say maybe you derailed or you said something that you are like, oops, why am I actually saying this? The biggest mistake you can make is to correct yourself. Hear me out. I know that sounds strange. The biggest mistake you can make is to correct yourself publicly or openly. So let's say they ask me, what is your greatest strength? And I say, well, you know, one thing I really love to do is to, you know, connect with people, empower them to be the best people that they're going to be. And I've been doing this right from when I was young. Even in primary school, there was a time that my headmistress, invited us to have an event at an inter-house sport. And I basically was the one who, led the team. And I, all those, is actually not good. I need to work on that too. And I led the team, and I was able to create a very unified environment. And when I got to university, I continued to do this. And let me tell you what just happened. I actually just said nonsense, because I don't know why I'm talking about primary school. But what I didn't do was, I didn't say, oh, pardon me. Do you understand what I'm saying? I didn't say, oh, pardon me. I just realized that, oh, okay, Miriam, you've gone off point. And I'm like, okay, let me bring this back to a more relevant experience. Now, you are the only one who knows that what you are saying is not actually what you intend to say. I don't know if I need you to get this point, because it's very key. You are the only one who knows that what you are saying is not what you really intend to say, or is not the best thing you could possibly say. But it is not your responsibility to let them know that you have made a mistake, or you are not answering the question in the best possible way. What you need to do is to internally course correct and still find a way to hit the point. And this happens even when you're like in school, or if you have to ask a question and you need to speak out in public. They're not in your mind. Thank you, I'm strong. You get my point. They're not in your mind to know that, hey, what am I talking about? I'm talking about my primary school. My God, this is an MBA interview. What am I doing? They can't hear that internal dialogue. But the moment you say, oh, actually, you know what? Let me start again. That's the end. Does that make sense? It's better for you to just, okay, you're having that internal dialogue and you're like, okay, Miriam, why don't you talk about something in university? Quickly, move to something that is more relevant. And then you move. Can you let me know you understand my point? I need you to articulate that point in the comments. It's a bit of a nuanced point. So you are course correcting, but keep the dialogue internal. Thank you, Ugona. Don't correct yourself for the interviewer. Exactly. You can say in addition or more recently, you can move, but don't correct yourself. Don't let them have a reason to say, oh, this person, nah, it's like they didn't know what they were saying. Does that make sense? Now, so we're talking about acing the interview. Exactly. Like if you apologize like that, it will reduce your confidence, and that's like the end of the game. All right. So yes, you guys are brilliant. Avoid open expressions of personally identified errors. Reroute and stay on track. So if you know that in your mind you've made a mistake in what you are saying during your interview, don't correct yourself in front of the interviewer and say, oh, sorry, let me give that another go. Don't say that. Instead, just redirect yourself, and then say what you actually intend to say. Fantastic. So we're talking about research. Oh my God, Chibuzo, you're busting my brain. Retract and package. I love that. Now, when you're doing research about a school, because we're talking about schools now, you need to ask yourself certain questions. What's this school known for? Why do I like this school? It doesn't really matter what your main goals are. Even if it's just like Japa, I don't care. But you need to, that's not something that that cannot be your main reason, right? When you're talking to the school, you need to show them that you actually care about what the organization or what the school does. So whether it's an organization that's giving you a scholarship or whatever. So what are some of the organization's proudest achievements? How does the school talk about themselves? I remember like Oxford says they pride themselves on, and Harvard also says that they pride themselves on building the next generation of leaders. When you are in an interview, your research, the depth of your research shows. And one of the ways to show your research in a not so obvious way is to use the same language that the organization that you are researching uses to talk about themselves. I need the comment section to buzz. So if the school says, or the department says, we pride ourselves on being the leading nanotechnology, blah, 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 it is your responsibility as an interviewee to say that one of the reasons why I really want to be here is that there is no other place, for me to join a cohort of people who have a vision of being the leading. Use that language. You don't have to quote it. You understand what I'm saying? But let it show that you understand their ethos. All right. So you speak like them. And when people hear things that they're familiar with, they bond with you. Are you feeling me? So for instance, if like one thing we always say a lot in getting is level up. If someone is interviewing me with me at getting and says, honestly, I'm just looking for any opportunity to help people level up in their lives, I can assure you that person is high on my list. You understand what I'm saying? Because it means that they know what I am about. Exactly. It's like it's a kind of contextualization, but it's you're helping them, feel more comfortable with you. So find the school's mission, the faculty's mission, their website. Another thing you should also look at is the news. Has this school been in the news recently? Has this faculty been in the news recently? And Google is your friend. You all know what to do with Google. So research, who research the program. Who are the people in the faculty? What does the program boast of? Who did they just receive a grant? This research will also help you when you want to ask questions. In fact, I've been in interviews where the candidate was even saying things that I did not even know. You understand what I'm saying about the organization? And that shows how much, and that was a very impressive point. Now, other things you need to think about are, what off-campus opportunities does the school or the program offer? Is there like an externship? Why is this program different from other programs? Most times, every program will say, oh, we differentiate ourselves by doing X, Y, Z. We have, inclusion and diversity is at the forefront of our whatever. Or they will say that, they focus on empowering students to do. You need all of that information. You gather it into your arsenal. Now, when it's a scholarship, your research is similar but a little bit different. You need to understand, why are these people putting their money here? What is the kind of person they're looking for? Why do they care so much that they're putting their money to give you? You understand what I'm saying? To give you this money to go to school. And how can I show that I'm going to be aligned with their goals? For example, something like the Commonwealth Scholarship. When you do the research, you will see that they're looking for change makers, people who are going to go back to their country, right? And they're going to have a multiplier effect. Now, once you know that, when you are talking in your interviews, you need to come with evidence that shows that even without the Commonwealth Scholarship, you are already changing your society. You're already having an impact. Not to talk about if you have the support of this kind of organization. And you need to make it clear when you are talking. Are you feeling me? So your research is what will inform the foot that you put forward. At the comment section, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Okay, so that's one thing you have to do to make sure that you have the arsenal that you need to be able to answer properly and to be able to ask questions. Your research needs to be on point. You also need to look at the profiles of people who have gone to that program. Look at them and talk to them. One of the tips I'm going to give you during your interviews, it may not feel like much to you, but there are a few soft things that you need to do to make yourself stand out in an interview. So for example, you must name drop if you can. What does that mean? You should say things like, if you've had an opportunity to talk to someone who was in that program or who got that scholarship, you say, when I was talking to Simon, the 2022 winner of the Commonwealth Scholarship, who, I work with in this organization where we clean up the beach in Lagos. Do you know what I just did there? Can someone tell me what I just did there? Like I did a couple of things with one sentence right there. When I had a conversation with Simon, who won this scholarship last year, Simon and I worked together in this organization where we do this. He explained to me that being part of the Chevening community helped him to do X, Y, and Z. Now I can see the people who have taken our course. I can see the people who have taken our course. That's the power of association, but I'm not going to give you people the tea. But yes, in simple words, you are showing the connection. You are showing, in fact, you have done so many things with that sentence, and it's a strategic move. You don't just say that kind of thing in an interview without thinking about it. Okay, if the opportunity comes, I will. You understand what I'm saying? Say this, please. If you know that this webinar is helping you, I don't like selfish people. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like it. If you know this webinar is helpful, get the link. Put it in the comments. Get the link and send it to someone. If you know this webinar is helpful, don't be selfish. There's enough space for everybody to fly. That's one of my number one mantra. Get the link and send it to someone or post it on social media. So you've shown that you have so much interest in the program that you've gone to talk to someone. Number one. Number two, you didn't just talk to anybody. You talk to a better person, someone that they rate, someone that they found good enough to give a scholarship. Number three, you didn't even just talk to them or whatever. You show that you and that person, people are on the same level. You are kind of like doing things similarly. So if that person was good enough for you, I should be good enough for you. You understand what I'm saying? So that's a small thing that you can do. But again, this is a very specific example. You need to learn how to apply this to your situation. So maybe you don't know anybody who has particularly gotten the scholarship. You understand? Maybe you don't know someone who has particularly gotten the scholarship, but maybe you know that the professor usually hosts a particular conference every year. You understand? So you will say while we are talking, you'll be like, one of the things that really drew me, like Professor Crispin, I noticed that you organize the XYZ conference every year. And that to me is just a great opportunity to network with, industry experts or to network with professors in the field. And the fact that it's happening right here in this faculty is really something I'm looking forward to. And I hope there are opportunities for students to actually, join in organizing this conference. So that's another way you can do it. And again, the quality of your answers depends on your depth of research. So search the organization, the school, look at their websites, look at the news, look at the individual profiles of the top people in the organization. What are they affiliated to? What are the causes that they care about? Look at the social media handles of the university. What are they reposting? Look at whether they got a grant recently. All those information will come together to help you. Now, you need to research your interviewers. You cannot get the slides, blessing. You cannot get the slides. Write your notes. So how many people will interview you? Who are they? What positions do they hold? Will it be an individual or a group interview? Right? Once you know the people that are going to interview you, exactly, it feels like you're going to get into their skin. So LinkedIn is a very great resource. See, what activities they are up to. For academics, Twitter is a huge place, because academic Twitter is a thing. Use Twitter, check what they're talking about, see whose post they liked. You understand what I'm saying? Whose post they liked. Look, that means if you look at what somebody has liked, it means you understand their interests. Okay, so if you know who's going to be on the interview panel, do that research. If you don't know who is going to be on the interview panel, then you research everyone that could possibly be connected with you. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to do that. Okay, let's move on. Now, when you want to answer questions, there are let me just say 4 things that you want to have in mind. And we're still going to talk about the STAR method, which I think is actually a very useful method to use. But we don't just do the STAR method. We teach you how to conceptualize, show receipts, show your value, and make sure you have a story for every part of your resume. And I'm going to talk about it. I'm a huge believer in storytelling, right? Because what you do when you tell a story, please, I'm begging you in the name of God, don't go and tell a story about traditional ruler like me. No, that's not what I'm talking about. And that's why what I didn't understand at that time was the idea of conceptualization. And I can talk about this all day and all year because it's literally a game changer. If you understand conceptualization, it will help you in your interviews, it will help you your grad school applications, it will help you when you're writing essays in school, it will help you when you're interviewing for jobs, it will help you if I get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, if that's what you want. Like being able to conceptualize concepts and explain it to people in a way that is digestible. So now what do I mean by conceptualization? When you've been asked a question, it's important for you to understand that you and the interviewer, you are not born by the same father and same mother. You didn't grow up in the same household. You haven't had the same experiences. However, you, as the person who is being interviewed, you have a task to let them understand where you are coming from, what you are trying to explain, and the value that you bring. And the tool that can help you do that is conceptualization. So the cheapest and the easiest example I always use is that you can't have an interview for a position, a graduate assistant position, or for like a position in a faculty, as a graduate student. And you're talking about when I was in NYSC in Nigeria. Like, number one, that acronym doesn't make sense to the person who is talking to you. I use that example all the time. If someone is on this call that is not a Nigerian, I have successfully alienated them from this conversation because they don't even know what I'm talking about, because I haven't conceptualized NYSC for them. Now, NYSC is like a compulsory, national service thing that Nigerians do. And it's like you give it 1 year to serve the government. Now, there's nothing wrong with using the experience you gained from NYSC while you are talking, but you cannot just talk about NYSC as if your interviewer knows what it is. So whenever you have to explain everything, this is something that should be running through all your answers. Don't explain something in a way that only you who has experienced it, you understand. So let me give you an example. Exactly. But let me say NYC, you can say a graduate trainee program. Thank you. So you can say, when I was doing like a graduate trainee program, for the government, like if you want to actually say that. But I will personally just say what I did and what I learned, without necessarily having to, put it within that context or use the organization that I was working with at the time. Is it making sense? So let me try and give an example. So if you say, tell me about a time when you led a group and, what challenges did you face and what was the outcome? You can say, so when I was in university, I was leading the GES group. What does that mean? You understand? I was leading, you can say when I was in university, I was made the class representative for the GES group or the GES class. Which is GES is like one of the largest classes, right? So you can say, when I was in university, one of the courses that I took had a class size of over 300 students. And I was made the class representative. That's the same thing. You've given them an idea of the venue, you understand, and the concept of that place, which is a classroom, 300 people. That's a lot of work. You have set the background. You have conceptualized for them. So you can't just say, another thing you shouldn't say is, as the class representative, how many people? How am I able to know the gravity of the work you did? Are you getting my point? These are the things that are going to make you stand out from other people. These are the things that are going to make you stand out from other people. So as exactly the class size has given an impression of the amount of work involved without you having to say, it was a lot of work. All by saying the class size, you have shown the amount of work involved. You understand what I'm saying? So show me a time when you had to lead a team. I was with a class representative of a class of 300 students, and my responsibility was to X, Y, and Z. In order to do that, it was difficult to, I had to figure out a way to manage that class size while making sure that everybody was receiving information adequately. What I did was I realized that I couldn't do this alone. That's a good thing. You are showing that you understand the value of teamwork. I realized I couldn't do this alone, and I needed to have a team that would, take the vision of ensuring that everybody had adequate communication and run with it. So what I did was I asked for volunteers, people who were passionate about helping others succeed. And I said, how would you like to join in creating, a WhatsApp platform that you blah, 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 blah. And I assigned the volunteers to watch over 50 students. So they made sure that those 50 students, they're responsible to ensure that the 50 students in their cohorts, had all the information that they needed and were able to check on them. At the end of the day, my class, that year, that class recorded the highest, number of A's that the faculty has ever recorded since the class was, whatever implemented. Now, Chimaka, you have a very good question. You don't want to, and we're going to just use the STAR technique, right? We're going to use the STAR technique. You don't want to, in the name of contextualization. Sorry, please, can you go back? You don't want to, in the name of contextualization, now go off point. No, you understand? But I need you to at least understand the concept. And let me tell you the truth. You are going to practice your answers. Please, can we go to the previous slide, Faye? You're going to practice your answers over and over and over again, but you will not be a robot. Do you understand me? And let me jump to this point that says a story for each line of your CV. So I want you to look at your resume and say, okay, I said I did this. What story can I tell? And practice that story and keep it under 1 minute. When I was applying for, I think I have what I would call my dream job. When I was applying for my dream job, and it's all the same concepts. I took my resume. I said, okay, I said I did this. What's the story behind it? I read, so I crafted that story. Now, that same story can be used sometimes in different ways. So a story that is about leadership could also be used when they tell you to talk about your strength. Do you understand me? So you actually need to go very prepared with, it's not in the interview that you start thinking of examples. There are going to be some instances where a question comes at you that you haven't thought about. But the sure banker is to be telling stories that you are familiar with. You understand? So that is how you go into an interview without rambling, because while they were preparing for you, you were also preparing for them. You understand? You are prepared for them. So you are going to practice those questions and those answers over and over and over again until you have it down to a science, but you are not going to recite it. Do you understand? Once you practice over and over again, you yourself know what is next. The last thing you want to sound like is like a robot, okay? Now, we've talked about conceptualization. I hope you understand it. You need to make sure you're setting the situation, very similar to the situation thing in STAR technique, but conceptualization goes beyond just saying, oh, tell them the situation. No, you are thinking, how is this person going to receive this information that I'm giving them? The other thing you need to do is to show receipts. What does that mean? You need to show how you were successful. How were you successful? So if you notice the example I gave, I told you that that class recorded the highest number of A's. So tell me, the organization I worked for, they were able to raise XYZ amount of money. Oh, I was working in, they were able to raise X amount of money. The last research project I did, we got published in Nature Journal. What was the end result? What happened? You need to use those receipts. Now, the other thing, people think about the beginning and the end of their interview, but they're not thinking about the middle, showing value through some side comments. You understand? Which is kind of what I told you before, talking about, oh, I spoke to this person, or you say things like, when I was, and this is using the receipts, the things that you've done in your resume. When I volunteered for this organization, which is the leading organization in blah, 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 blah. You need to show those things while you're talking. Let them know that you are just not a normal person. You understand what I'm saying? You can say, oh, every summer I was given the opportunity to intern at whatever, a set big organization. Or 2 years ago, I was selected as a delegate to the World Youth Forum in Egypt, and I got the opportunity to meet. They'll be like, you delegates, interesting. You understand? So while you are talking, always think, how can I press the neck of these interviewers? I mean, like, how can I show these people that? So I was having a friendly chat with someone, and they introduced themselves. They were a lawyer. They introduced themselves, very basic introduction. And I asked them further questions, and I was like, oh, really? Did you work in between this experience? And they were like, oh, yes, I worked, I did this, I did that. And they had so many amazing things to say about themselves, but they didn't think to come, you understand? They didn't think to lead with that. So you are going to have to really believe, and some of you might say, well, I've not done anything. It's not true. You're going to have to really believe that you are that great, and you're going to convince them that you are. All right? Now, another tip that you need to bear in mind, please, oh my goodness, I'm about to kneel down. Please, if you've not taken anything I've said today, this one, take it with you. Keep it in your left hand. You mustn't use it to eat. One thing that you have to ensure that you do, no matter the question, if the interviewer asks you, recite A, B, C to Z, right? Obviously, I'm just joking. When you recite E, F, G, blah, 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 X, Y, Z, tell them, and because of the way I have recited this ABC in a melodic manner, in a manner that is very rhythmical, it shows that I, if given the opportunity to join this program, will approach everything that I do with a sense of purpose, and I will be able to contribute towards the effective reciting of ABC in this faculty. I'm saying that as an extreme, but it shows that your eyes are on the prize. Every question they ask you, you must bring it back and tell them, now that you've asked me this question, I'm going to show you how your question plus my experience brings me to be the perfect person for this over everyone else. Now, let's give you a more practical example. Can someone throw me a question in the comments? I usually like doing these things impromptu. Please, if you haven't posted on social media, actually, let me check my phone because you will think I'm joking. There's actually no notification on my Instagram. I don't have any notification, no. So you people did not post. Nobody, only Dara. I'm done. No, bye-bye, everyone. It's over. Where did you post? WhatsApp. Nobody posted on Instagram. Nobody posted on Twitter. Only Dara posted. No, you guys, let's not do this. I need people to come here because some of you know I'm a new mom. Time is my most important resource. So I can't do this every week. I want to make sure that we can get as many people as we can get today so that you go with the information. Nobody, no single post. Hey, Willie. Oh yeah, you guys, can you post, please now? I'm begging you, no Shakara, I'm not posing. Post, tag us. If this is helping you, tag us, because you people you're not leaving the room is full. So it means you are enjoying it. Don't keep it to yourself. Literally nobody has posted. Tag me too. My handle is Miriam Momodu _ Amaka, put our handles also so that they can in this thing as you are posting, so that we can see in case I'm falsely accusing them. Okay. I'm waiting until I see notification. We're not continuing. I'm checking the Instagram page. No single notification. Sorry, I'm dramatic, but I can't be giving you guys all these gems without you hyping us and getting other people to come. You say you can't post so your village people will not see your plans. Now that's the problem with this industry. Even when you get the scholarship, people don't always come back and say, Miriam, thank you. Never. Anyway, I do this for the community, so it's fine. Anyway, so let's move on. I was talking about, so if they ask you, what are your leadership, whatever. By the time you finish talking about your experience, you're not going to come back and say, for me, let's say you talked about how, let's use that same example of class rep, right? So you can say, for me, that experience really emphasizes something that is really dear to me, which is the power of teamwork and community. And that's one of the reasons why I like the University of Bradford, because I noticed that there's a very high commitment to working as a team, particularly in the labs. And it's an environment that I see that I will fit right in based on my value for leadership, or for teamwork and collaboration. Do you understand me? You must do that for every question. At some point, it might seem mechanical, but you have to make sure that you are customizing it in each case. You understand? Make sure you are customizing it in each case. So someone should give me another, okay, someone says, if successful, what specific things will you do to prepare for success in this faculty? No, I want a question that asks you to talk about yourself first. And then I want to bring how you bring it back. I'm trying to see if someone gave me a question. Okay, I've answered the leadership one. Why are you the best candidate? I don't really like that question. I think it's unlikely for you to get it because you haven't seen the other candidates, right? And if I were to answer this question, here's what I would say. Why am I the best candidate? I'll say, oh, that's a very, that's a big question to answer. And I would say something like, I have no doubts that all the candidates you have interviewed are excellent. That's how I would start. Because you need to make sure that you need to also sound like you have to be a kind person. You have to be someone who respects others, right? So you say, I have no doubt that all the other candidates invited here are excellent. But one thing that really sets me out that I think the other candidates may not have is this. And you use all these frameworks again to kind of emphasize that. Do people really still ask this kind of questions? Like, career highlight is so broad. You know, if you're going with a seasoned interviewer, they're going to ask you questions that are more targeted. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I do like the question, but let me see the one that I'm going to take and tweak a little bit. You know, okay, tell us about the time you harnessed an opportunity. What did you make out of it? So you talk about using all this conceptualization, everything. You talk about the opportunity, right? And then you say, let's say the opportunity was, oh, you noticed that there was, the trash in your building, in school or whatever wasn't being recycled, and you went and you spoke to management about how to them making sure that they recycle these materials. Obviously you are going to be somebody who is going for like maybe something environmental related, for that to be your example, and then this is what you achieved, and for you that shows initiative, and that's that kind of initiative. That's how you are, and you're willing to bring that level of initiative anywhere that you go. For example, in the faculty, I see myself, really, speaking out for international students, showing how the, I don't know, whatever, like depends on the specific circumstance. But my point is, always take whatever example you've given and tie it back to the reason why you are there. Okay. Fantastic. So we've already talked about this. Last week I was speaking to Ruth from a research lab. Yes, we talked about that. So next, I can see more people joining in. So thanks for posting, folks. Sorry I harassed you. Now, the STAR method, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just want you to both use the tips I've given you in the previous slide and now kind of integrate into the STAR method. So STAR method is situation, task, action, result. So what's the situation? Describe the specific situation. I was made a group, I was leader of a group of 300 students. That's kind of like the background. But bear in mind that while doing that, you've also done some conceptualization by using those numbers. If you say that, you're in your organization, let's say you're doing an MBA interview, you led a team and the revenue increased. Don't say the revenue increased by 200%. Don't say that you had a short period of time to implement the project. Say you had just 2 months when the project would typically take 6 months. Because if you say we had just 2 months, that doesn't really make a difference because they don't know that it would take 6 months. Do you understand me? So always think like, okay, can they really understand what I'm saying based on the example that I'm giving? Now the task, what did you do? So you have to do a project in 2 months. You're given the time frame. What did you do? You realized that what was the task? The task was to do a marketing project in 2 months, a marketing project for a non-profit that was just coming into Nigeria. Now, what were your goals? In order to do this, our goal was to make sure that the nonprofit was going to be top of mind when they launched, to attract, talents to the nonprofit and also attract donors. In order to achieve this, the first thing I did was to suggest that we needed to do a focus group to find out what people knew about this organization and what, was lacking in terms of communication or blah, 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 and blah. How did you do the focus group? We engaged a third party because of the limitation of time, who I supervised, to produce X, Y, Z, and Z results. At the end of the day, the organization launched in Nigeria. We surpassed the targets for the client by over 200%. And the same client has gone on to give us 2 more jobs. You understand what I'm saying? In blah, 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 blah. All right. You've shown your receipts, you've shown your leadership, and you have done that using the STAR method. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Sorry, there's just so much to say, but I have to wrap it up. We have been here for an hour already. Now, so if you have an interview, I think it's important for you to go and gather like questions based on, and we just gathered some of them based on the specific thing that you're interviewing for. So these questions that we've gathered are high level questions, but they will kind of help you to at least get started. And it's like, think about, how am I going to contribute value to this program or a school? Even if they don't ask you this question in a very direct way, it might come up indirectly, but because you have prepared an answer for it, you already have what to say. So how will you contribute value? What plans will you have to be a worthy ambassador? So something that I say a lot of times whenever I'm interviewing is that I tell people that, and I'm going to give, this is literally my script that I use, and I'm going to give you, and I'm 100% sure it's going to work for you. Now, if you're ever been, sorry, there's so many things that I have to say before this session wraps up. If you've ever been in an interview where you have an open end, where they ask you, is there anything else you would like to add to this interview or that maybe hasn't come up? Never say nothing. No. Always say something. This is a place where you hype yourself. Now, one of the things that I say about myself, which I believe is true, and I want to encourage you to adopt it or adapt it to what would fit for your situation, is I say something like this. Well, one of the things I really want you to know about me is that I'm the kind of person who puts my everything into whatever I do. And you can see my track record. This shows in this, the successes and the achievements that I've had over the years. However, one that I think really stands out for me is that I've been very fortunate to have been invested in by a lot of people. And one thing I always say is that there's no investment in me as a person or in my career that will not yield multiple results. I'm very community focused. I'm very community oriented. Whenever I learn something, whenever I gather a skill, it is my instinct to push it and put it back into my community. And that's exactly how I live. So for instance, as you know, I run Getting, which is an organization that does this. Getting was born out of my desire to make sure that other people have access to educational opportunities. I got a scholarship of £30,000, but that has multiplied into helping other people get $5 million worth of scholarships. So if I'm given this opportunity, quite frankly, that's just what I do. I'm going to definitely, be an ambassador that will, is it not sweet? But I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Like, and for you that you're looking for a scholarship, you that you're looking for investment in yourself, you must show them that if they invest in you, that investment is going to carry. And you don't just say that blandly. You say it using receipts. I said so many things right there. I said somebody invested £30,000 in me. I've turned that to $5 million. $5 million. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we're going to get to questions after interview. So I want you to start thinking about your own experience. Like, okay, if I get like an open this thing to sell myself, what am I going to say? So I like that pitch because it also connects to people emotionally. Like I'm actually being very sincere. In your interview, make sure you are sincere. And I really do believe that of myself. I've said it time and time and again. Like I would say, or another thing you can say is, well, I'm not going to speak for myself, but I'm just going to use the words that my mentors have used, which is that I can always bet on Miriam. And that has been so I can always bet on Toyin. And that has been really a common thread everywhere that I've had an opportunity to work and to serve, which is that there's almost like 100% guarantee that I'm going to be engaged. I'm going to look for ways to improve wherever I am. I'm going to look for ways to contribute. And I'm also going to look for ways to help others around me grow. Oh, well, there's no way you're not going to stand out. Do you understand me? So again, you cannot just get to an interview and these things will start coming out from your mouth if you have not practiced them. So that's my pitch that I just gave you, and answer a question of what plans, how will I be an ambassador of the school? And I'll be like, oh, to be honest, I feel like this question literally just fell into my lap, because that's one thing I love to do. I like to point people to opportunities and resources that help them, because I've been someone who has benefited from other people pointing such resources to me. I do this through, I will use Getting as an example. Are you thinking about how this can apply to your own particular situation? So you need to ask yourself, what projects have I been involved in? So list projects. Okay, I did this, I did that, I did that. Then you craft a story around those projects. What are your skill sets? So list your skill sets: leadership, teamwork, and all those skill sets, have a story for them, so that no matter where the question comes from, you already have something in mind. Now, what are your short-term goals? Excuse me, your short-term goal has 100% everything to do with the place that you are, and your long-term or that you're trying to get into. So your short-term goal is obviously to get into that program. You understand? And whatever you intend to gather or learn from that program. Now, your long-term goals, you need to say that based on XYZ, whatever that you've learned from this program, you intend to capitalize on it to do something that the alumni typically does. So if you're going for a research program or for a PhD, don't tell them that your long-term goal is to go and be a CEO. What they actually want to hear is that you want to be a professor. I'm telling you, which is different from an MBA. If you're going for an MBA, don't go and tell them that your goal is to become a professor, because what they actually want to hear from you is that you're going to go into business. Do you understand me? So I want you to make sure that whatever your long-term goal fits into whatever long-term trajectory that that program typically has for its alumni. Are we clear on that? What your long-term goal, you cannot be applying for a scholarship that says you're going to go back to your home country and your long-term goal is to work in New York. Do you understand me? That will not fly. Your long-term goal must align with the ethos of that organization. So leadership as well, make sure you have like 3 to 4 examples that you're going to practice. Remember, your answers should be like 1-minute answers. The last time I had a job interview, I'm going to be very honest with you guys, I was rusty. It took me like 3-4 days of practicing and practicing for me to really get my answers to be succinct, right? I know that I was hitting the nail on the head. I'm going to skip this so that we can move quickly. Next, quickly. We've talked about some of these. We just want to emphasize, I've talked about this. You need to set the tone. You need to make sure that, you're not stuffy. Sometimes, as I said, your interviewer is nervous. So don't go there and just be looking, So when you say, hello, hi, I'm so excited to meet you, Professor whoever, if you know who they are. Oh, hi, good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here. I've been waiting nervously all day for this, like maybe not nervously, but you know what I'm saying? Like just kind of make things a little light. If you're someone with a sense of humor, try to infuse a little bit of humor into your answers, okay? Because it makes people feel comfortable. It's your job to keep the energy of the entire interview up, all right? Now, as I said, be confident. Don't apologize for what is lacking. Oh, sorry if you can't hear me, my electricity. If they can't hear you, they will tell you. Or sorry that I need to come again and say this. Don't say all of that. Speak clearly and confidently, maintain eye contact, remember to smile when appropriate, dress smart, sit upright, look into the camera, remember your background and your lighting, make sure it's not cluttered. If you don't have a background that you want to show, make sure you use a blank wall. Obviously test your audio and your video as well. Let's move to the next slide. We have a lot coming up next, so I want you to stick around. So we've listed again some common questions. Now, tell me about yourself. I think we do have, Faye, we have a slide on that specifically, so I won't go into it, but I want you to, maybe you can take a screenshot of this or take a photo. Tell me about yourself. How will you contribute to this program? What are your greatest accomplishments? Now, when they ask you what are your greatest accomplishments, let me tell you, make sure it's something that has to do with working with a team. Don't say my greatest accomplishment that I finished with the first class. Do you understand me? That's not your greatest accomplishment. Make sure your greatest accomplishment has to do with something that is bigger than yourself. We may not see, for instance, for most Nigerians, if you say, oh, my greatest accomplishment that I did so well in school, we may not mind this, but a lot of times when you're interviewing, you're looking for someone who can fit into that, you understand, environment. Right? So you can make sure that it's an achievement, but it also has something to do with a team. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I've talked about this in our boot camp. When you're talking about your weaknesses, always make sure that I don't really talk about weaknesses too much. Like if I were to think about it, what's my weakness? Actually, I know what my weakness is, and it's a true weakness. And this is what I would say. I said one of my weaknesses, oops, sorry. Make sure your lights doesn't fall during your interview. So one of my weaknesses is that I am someone who I'll say, if you can't tell already, I'm very high energy. I love to get involved in projects. If I see a problem and there's a team that wants to fix it, I want to join that team and I want to help. But one of the things I've realized is that it's important to do anything that I do, I want to do it well. And if I'm stretched, to the extent that I'm doing more than, I have the current capacity to do, there's a tendency that I might get everything done, but I might not do it to the level of excellence that I'm accustomed to. So one thing I've learned to do over the years is I actually have a running list of projects that I want to start, that I want to join, but I make sure that I pace myself. And I translate this in my work as well. Whenever I get tasks, I always ask whoever's giving me that task, when do you need it? What's the priority level? When do you need it by? How would you like it presented, so that I can give it my all and make sure that I'm delivering an excellent result. Over the years, I've worked on this skill such that I know my capacity. I'm able to take on exactly, take on the amount of work that still challenges me, but ensures that I'm able to deliver maximum results. As a result of that, I'm a trusted we say student or advisor. I'm a trusted employee everywhere I am, because you can rest assured that if I'm given a task to do, I'll do it. I'm bringing that to working with, working in XYZ lab. Based on my experiences, now I know how to prioritize tasks. I know how to ask the right questions about timelines, and I know how to blah, 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 which I will bring to bear, as a member of this lab. So at the end of the day, I didn't really talk about it as a weakness, as if, oh, help me. At the end of the day, it sounded like I was actually just selling myself. So don't talk about weaknesses like, oh, I don't know how to manage my time and I don't know how to manage my time. No, show them that you've overcome it. Give them examples to show that you have overcome it. Don't just say, oh, back in the day, I used to do this, now I don't anymore. Give examples to show that you've overcome it. We've talked about long-term career goals. Tell me about a time that you failed. Now, when you want to talk about a time that you failed, you will talk about a failure, but that failure, please don't let it be that you lost your company, especially for like the MBA folks, that you made a decision that lost your company $2 million. That one is not a failure. That one is an abysmal failure. Nobody wants to hear that. So one of the examples that I give of a time that I failed, is I said that, the first thing I did was to set a situation. When I was working in, a multinational telecommunications company in Nigeria as a legal officer, one of my colleagues wasn't feeling well, and she was ill for about 2 months. As a result of that, I had to manage her workload and my workload. Of course, as a team member, I was very happy to do this, right? To make sure that the team continued to run appropriately. So for the past 2 months, I'd been working really hard, keeping late nights, doing everything to make sure that it wasn't obvious that my colleague was out of the office. And then my boss asked me to book a meeting. So I made the call, and I called, and I had the meeting booked, or so I thought. Apparently, it turned out that I actually didn't hit send, and the meeting wasn't booked. When it was time for the meeting, my boss reached out and was like, what's happening? Is the meeting not happening? And I realized the mistake that I made. I'm going to be very honest with you and say that was a very low point for me, because I pride myself on being someone who is reliable and someone who, if you tell to do something, I will get it done. That's the reputation that I had. But then that made me reflect at that point that, I'd been running on 500% for about 2 months, and I should have reached out to my supervisor and said, I probably needed some kind of support so that I could continue to do the work effectively. At the end of the day, thankfully, I was able to reschedule the meeting and I still saved the day. But that taught me a very important lesson, in that in as much as I do have a lot of capacity, in as much as I'm very hardworking and I'm able to get things done, it's important that I'm very aware, the here and now. And I should also learn to reach out for help as needed. And that's something that I've worked on. Whenever I need help, if needed, depending on the workload, I never hesitate to ask. And it really does help build, team spirit. Bringing that to working in the lab, honestly, I'm going to be, extremely hardworking. I'll take on tasks and do what is needed. But to the extent that, we need to collaborate or I need help, I'm not shy to ask, because it shows that, if I'm able to save time for the team by asking for help, then I'm going to do it. And at the end of the day, we're all better for it. It's not, if you notice, my answers are not that stuffy. Do you get? They're not very stuffy, but they show that I've thought about this. So I failed quite all right. But in the middle of telling them that I failed, I told them that, number one, I'm the most reliable person in my office. I told them that I did somebody's work for 2 months. And the comments are not commenting. I told them that I did someone's work for 2 months. Do you understand? I told them that I cared about my team, because obviously if my colleague wasn't feeling well, I was going to step up. I told them all those things, but I just told them that I forgot to book a meeting. And I also told them that I saved the day and I was still able to book the meeting. Does that make sense? So when you're thinking about failure, think about, how am I going to massage this thing and say it in such a way that I'm not so sounding non-genuine, that I actually don't. To be honest, this is actually a real life situation that happened. And it's even worse than this, because guess what? My boss actually went to the other person's office and came back to the office and there was no meeting. It was actually very embarrassing. And I've told this story before in an interview. I'm telling you, she went there. But you know what? I actually didn't feel bad, because I was actually killing it for the past 2 months. Only me doing 2 people's work, and I was doing it efficiently. There was no error until that moment. But I should have spoken up, because I didn't speak up, nobody knew how much work I was doing and nobody was able to help me. You understand? Marvin, by enjoying your jams. Please, can we mute? Peter, oh, please, let's mute. Thank you. So, so that same example, I can use that same, and this is why I say you must have a story for each line of your CV. I can use that same example for, tell me about the time you went above and beyond on a project. The fact that somebody on the project was unavailable and I took on their work, that kind of stuff. Tell me when you had to make a decision of limited resources, what motivates you? Why do you want to join business school? Why an MBA and why now? Obviously with MBA, you need to sound ambitious. That's the one thing I'm going to tell you, MBA folks. Don't go to an MBA interview and say, I just want to come back to my normal job in Nigeria. You must sound like you are about to change the world for the MBA folks through business. If you don't have that vibe, get that vibe. If the goals and the examples you use are limited in mind, expand them. You're not just thinking about how to build a software development company in Nigeria. You're thinking about how that company can really service the world. That's the kind of talk you need to be having. Okay? So for research-based programs, you might need to be prepared for more technical questions, maybe on like trends in your field. For scholarships, obviously you need to answer questions about how this scholarship is going to benefit you, which you must, and if you say how this scholarship is going to benefit me, don't just say it will be so helpful because I really cannot afford to go to Cambridge and I've gotten the admission. No, you say that, number one, obviously like the scholarship is obviously helps in terms of, dealing with the financial aspects of pursuing a Cambridge education. But for me, it's really more than that. Do you understand? Don't let money ever be your main this thing. For me, it's really more than that. Number one, it gives me access to this alumni community. Number two, it gives me the authority to be able to speak up to others and champion causes I care about. As you know, I very much care about climate change, and more people are likely to listen to me if they hear that the Commonwealth Scholarship thought I was deserving of a scholarship. Ha 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 ha! Everybody laughs. We're having a good time. Do you understand what I'm saying? You also say that the scholarship also gives you the opportunity, to go and learn what you can use to transmit to others. So always think more, how can I grow my community? How can I help others? How is this opportunity not just for me to japa? How is this opportunity going to help other people? Are you feeling me? Great. Next question. If I want us to, we're 190 in the room. I think we should be able to get to 200 before this is over. So if you have 3 more people that you need to invite, do it, or 7 more people, so that we can get to 200 people. And I know that, that's a good number of people to teach in a day. Okay, let's tackle some common questions. Faye, over to you. I think everybody's tired of hearing my voice.
Thank you, Miriam. Hi, everyone. Let us know in the chat box, are you enjoying this session? Miriam, I have to say I learned something new. I just remembered that a while ago, I had an interview where I was asked, what is your greatest accomplishment? And I said, my greatest accomplishment is finishing my bachelor's degree. And now I'm like, I should have said something else. So that is amazing. You guys should let us know.
Being our community manager is a great accomplishment. And that's what I would do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Miriam. Okay, so let's go in and tackle this question. I feel like introduce yourself is like the most popular question ever. Everybody wants to know more about you. Who are you? And you will get variations of this question. Tell me about yourself. Can you tell us a little bit more about you? We know this. Can you tell us about this? So to answer this question effectively, you want to summarize your educational background and your past work or research experience. You want to make sure that the listener or the interviewer can get a sense of what you have done and where you have been. You want to give them an overview of your goals and how these goals connects with the program of scholarship. Miriam has already established that we must be able to draw a line between who we are, our goals, and the fit for the program. So that's something critical that you do not want to leave out. You want to mention a recent big accomplishment or an award, and then of course include a fun fact about you. And this fun fact about you, let me give you an explore, as Miriam always says. If it's something that your interviewer is interested into, that even gives you bonus points. For example, you have a professor who is a researcher by day and artist by night, and you say, one of the things I love to do during my free time is paint. That helps you to find a common ground or a common connection with the person. So let's look at this quick example, and you guys should let us know in the chat box, what do you think needs to be added to this? My name is Simi Soluwa. However, my friends refer to me as Simi. I have a bachelor's in chemistry from University of Ibadan, where I also served as the Student Union President. Remember, you want to mention an accomplishment. I have worked as a research assistant at the largest pharmaceutical company in Nigeria for the past 3 years. Here, I collaborate with a team to develop polio, tetanus, and measles vaccine for children. My long-term goal is establishing and leading Nigeria's first childhood vaccine laboratory. This PhD is my gateway, as I intend to explore the relationship between sodium carbonate and genes in vaccine formulation. During my free time, I teach middle school students in my local area mathematics, and I love to play volleyball. So as we can see, this person has given us a background about, I have a bachelor's, I've been student union president, I've been a research assistant. This is the kind of important work that I do. And this is why, this PhD is important to me. So let us know, do you think that we should add anything else? Miriam, what are your thoughts before we move on to the next question?
I really like it. I just think, like, I think sometimes, some of our interviews, you need to read the room where you're doing an interview. If they're a little more relaxed, try to be a bit relaxed as well, so you don't necessarily say, I finished from University of Ibadan. Like, you can just speak in a casual, because this is typed, like, speak in a more, conversational tone. So for instance, when she says, my name is Simi Solua, but my friends refer to me as Simi. Like, you're not going to say, my name is Simi Solua, but my friends refer to me as Simi. No, you say, my name is Simi Solua, but you can actually
friends call me Simi.
You can just call me Simi. Like, you need to, don't read this like how Faye read it, like straight, like read it like with, so say, I have a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from the University of Ibadan, which is actually the best in Nigeria.
Best.
Some
We
people
don't
might
agree, but okay.
agree, but we can talk about that after. While I was at the University of Idaho, I was the student union president for 2 years, which was, a very amazing leadership experience. Since I graduated from university, I worked in the largest pharmaceutical company in Nigeria for 3 years, and I really did the work that I was really passionate about, to develop polio, tetanus, and measles vaccines for children. I'm really interested in this PhD because my long-term goal is to establish Nigeria's leading first childhood vaccine lab. And the PhD will give me an opportunity to explore sodium carbonate and genes in vaccine formulation, which is something I've been pretty much obsessing about in my research since my undergrad. In fact, I wrote my thesis on this exact topic. Now, during my free time, I mean, I love pharmacy, but I also try to do other things. I teach middle school students in my local area, mathematics, and I also love to play volleyball. Now, the reason why I took my time to talk about that was there's a difference when you're reading this and how I explained and articulated. Can you see the difference in attitude? Do you understand me? If you read this, this is different from good afternoon. My name is Simi Lolua, but my friends call me Simi. I have a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from University of Ibadan, where I was the Student Union President for 2 years. I've worked as a lead research assistant for the largest pharmaceutical company in Nigeria for 3 years. I developed polio, tetanus, and measles vaccines for children. My long-term goal is to establish Nigeria's first childhood vaccine lab. And really, this PhD is a gateway that I intend to use to explore the relationship between sodium carbonate and genes formulation. Now, during my free time, I teach middle school students in my area mathematics, and I love to play volleyball. Don't get me wrong, this second semi is not bad, but that first semi is going to get the job or is going to get the position. Do you understand me? So for you to see how that's the attitude, how you being relaxed, that's the first simi knows that she's an odogu. This second simi has done everything right, but doesn't have that vibe. You understand? An interview, I can tell you, is 90% vibes. If you can get the vibes right, you have the right energy, you're good to go. So I'm not going to do this exercise for the rest of them, but I'm just showing you how someone who is allegedly good on paper will be passed over for someone else who may not be as good. You get, because the other person just knows how to sell themselves during an interview. We have literally just 15 more minutes for this and for everything else we need to do today. So let's move.
We've kind of talked about this, so should I move ahead?
Yeah, so I think we can. No, let's go to the previous one. Okay, no, let's use this as an example. So what are your strengths? Identify what strengths are necessary for this program. Now, I love one thing about this because it says as a business analyst and strategist with over 6 years experience in the financial sector, I would even go further and say, in leading companies like 1, 2, 3, and 4, preferably companies that they know of. My greatest strength, I like the fact that the person said my greatest strength. Like they're reminding them that I know your question, and I'm answering your question. My greatest strength is being able to break down difficult concepts, blah, 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 blah. How do you do this? I do this by, this is the action. I do this by transforming information into smaller bits. Then the person goes jokingly and says, at work, I'm actually often referred to as a professor, which is a little inside joke because I take so much time to explain things to people in the most comprehensible way as possible. So I really look forward to bringing this skill to the department as a teaching assistant for Foundations of Business Analytics. I'm aware that students may need extra support in their classes, and it will be rewarding to help them learn better. To be quite frank, I probably shouldn't say this, but I actually do teach for free quite a lot. So to even get the opportunity where, it's actually counting towards, my educational whatever is really a fantastic opportunity. It choke or be no choke. It choke. Moving.
It choke. Next one. So this one says, what are your research interests? Again, you want to make sure that you recall what you wrote in your SOP. For some of you, you wrote your SOP in October of 2022. You are getting called in February of 2023. Go back to read your SOP. Make sure it aligns with the department and the supervisor. You can't say that you want to do a kind of research that nobody in the department is interested in. It's outdated. It's not something that they're talking about in your field anymore. Make sure that you're aware of this. So let me quickly read this. After 3 years of working in the maternity ward of Nigeria's biggest hospital, I have witnessed a variety of pregnancy-related issues that contribute to the 50,000 childbirth-related illnesses in Nigeria. I am interested in understanding the correlation between preeclampsia, genetics, and stages of pregnancy. Particularly, I want to understand what kind of factors predispose women to these related issues. It is why the work of Professor Brown on maternity room conditions in the US caught my attention. I want to be able to provide lasting solutions to the issues that plague the obstetrics department in my country. Now, one thing I would say that can be added to this is you want to even expand on the work of Professor Brown. What exactly were you interested in? Is it that they said 50,000 women are doing this? Is it a new technology? Is it a new tool? What exactly is Professor Brown doing that you are interested in? And how would you build upon that? So let's hear from you guys. What do you think can be added to this? What should we add to this to make it, a bit better, or to give it more insights, or to even make it more interesting for your interviewer?
Oh, by the way, we're going to call some of you to tell me about yourself. So I hope you are getting ready.
It's like we'll start calling names, so nobody has anything.
Don't mind
Hey.
Okay, let's move to the next, just in the interest of time. Because you guys are MVPs, you've been here for almost 2 hours. So this is me.
Yes.
So last year, tell me about the time you had to explain a difficult concept to a team member. So we're using the STAR method. Last year, as lead program in Wave Labs, I worked with 30 people from different professional backgrounds who don't really know what Wave Labs is, to train 100 Nigerian youth in software development. So I would just say last year, as lead program coordinator for one of the biggest software development companies in Nigeria. It's called Wave Labs, something like that, just like as an aside. I worked with 30 people, blah, blah, blah. I noticed that 50% of the students had difficulty understanding the concepts of using Python and R software and were failing their tests. Like, even though I was not part of the instructional team, I took the initiative to organize after school sessions on the weekends where I provided further explanations. I created multiple practice questions and walked through strategies to address them. This gave the students the extra support they needed. At the end of the program, 85 students graduated, having successfully passed the exams. Now, this is problematic because who knows 85 students as opposed to out of the 100, but who knows what the typical pass rate is? You understand what I'm saying? At the end of the program, 85 students successfully graduated, and over in the previous year, that number was at 60. So this was quite a huge improvement, and I was very proud that my additional efforts to explain concepts to them led to a higher success rate in the class. And that's how you wrap it up. Next.
Amazing. I just wanted to add, Miriam, that just like Miriam mentioned, remember that we can recycle our stories. This story can also be used for what is your strength. You can say one of my strengths is going out of my way to, make sure a project is completed and so on. So you guys should keep that in mind. So this is the last question. This one says, why social work? So the tip is make sure your goals align with what the program offers. A career in social work intersects with my background in education, my skills and experience in community development, as well as my professional goals to utilize education towards reducing social issues in Nigeria. Then we give some statistics. Over 20 million youth are facing unemployment. And so my career goal is to utilize the power of community and education to create solutions, and so on and so on. Duke University is the perfect place to gain the right skills and experience required for this work. So one thing I like about this is that it reminds the interviewer about your background, your skills and experience, and where you're going. But just like Miriam said, why is Duke University the perfect place? What do they have that would help you achieve this? Is it a program? Is it the faculty? Is it the professors? What exactly will make this more robust or rich? Okay. Miriam, go ahead. You wanted to add something?
No, that's it. That was my addition.
Great. And of course, you can also use the power of numbers if you want to talk about the impact that you will make by doing this degree. That can also be very useful. Great. You guys should let us know, are we doing well? Do you want us to continue? So wrapping up now, we want to get some volunteers to be on our hot seat. And if nobody raises their hand, use the raise hand function or in the chat, just say me. If nobody raises their hand, one thing about Miriam and I, we will call your name. So let's see who is available. Raise your hand or
Sorry,
tell me
for
in
some
the
of you who
chat.
haven't been to our live sessions before, you have to wait to the end because the main happens when we stop recording. So if you leave now, well, don't know. Okay.
Nobody. Miriam, please give us a name. Okay, I'm going to call Olga because I've seen that you've been very engaging. Olga, we want you to try. Don't worry, we're not trying to bash you. We just want to help. And I see that Dan has his hand up too. Okay, we'll go with Dan first, then Olga. Okay, Dan, are you there? Unmute yourself so we know you're
Yes, I
there.
am.
Okay, great. So Miriam, you
Yes,
want to
I
ask
am.
him a question?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, can you introduce yourself? Tell me about yourself.
Okay, my name is Sunday Daniel, and I've worked for about 4 years in the education industry. I started by joining Teach for Nigeria as a fellow, and I worked in a low-income community for 2 years, where I helped about 64 children to access quality education. And noticing that teachers do not have access to professional development, I started volunteering with Schooling Car, where we work with 3,500 teachers to access professional development opportunities across Africa. And currently, I work as a coach at Teach for Nigeria, where I'm helping about 20 fellows to support them and also enable them to make impact in their schools as well as their communities as well. So this program is going to help me to develop my leadership skills as well as strengthen my capacity to make impact in the nearest future. Thank you.
That was very decent, actually. Very, very, very decent attempt. The only two things I have to add are, one, I want you to, you've not told them what Teach for Nigeria really is. You need to let them understand that Teach for Nigeria is a global platform. The Nigerian branch, it's Teach for, the different Teach for, right? It's a global platform. So you say, I work with Teach for Nigeria, which, is part of a global community of an NGO, whatever, that prioritizes giving resources to teachers, in low-income communities. Then say all the other things that you said. The only other thing I didn't quite like is that I couldn't feel your personality. You understand? You were fairly monotonous. Like I couldn't tell that passion. I couldn't feel that passion for the work. You understand what I'm saying? So you need to be able to make sure that comes across. And as I said, when you are doing audio without being impressive, because if I saw your face, maybe I might have felt it. But if you're doing audio, you need to really make a conscious effort to demonstrate that passion. So you say, I work for Teach for Nigeria, where I volunteer with low-income communities. And one of the things I really love about my job is seeing, do you understand what I'm saying? Is seeing teachers who didn't have access to resources do this and then achieve XYZ results. So it is inspired by that. I decided to pursue a master's in social and education to further equip me to be able to support this community, to do the life-changing work of of educating the next generation of Africans. Do you understand? There's a difference between seeing just what's in your resume and convincing who you're talking to that you dey feel am. That's what I need to say.
Thank you, Miriam. I was going to add that too for you, Dan, that I couldn't get why education is important to you. I remember to tie that answer to what the department or program or scholarship is about. Great. Thank you, Dan. Next person on this, Olga has run away. So next person, Praise.
Let's just take the next people and that's it.
Yeah, Praise Hazan. Let's go.
Yeah, hello.
Miriam, what question do we have for her?
You ask a question.
Okay, Praise, tell me about...
Sorry. And when you are answering, bear in mind that we don't know you. I want you to, this is the biggest test of contextualization. And sorry, is this Sam? What was the name of the person?
Praise.
No, the first person.
Okay, Dan.
Dan, sorry, I was close. One thing Dan did was within 1 minute of talking, we knew what he was about. We knew this is an education guy. You understand what I'm saying? We knew what it was about. So I'm not going to ask you, tell me about yourself. I'm going to ask you a different question. But when you are talking, I want you to be able to conceptualize yourself to us, even though we don't know you. So can you tell me your biggest strength and your biggest weakness? You all have 1 minute, no more.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Perez Hazan, and I am a creative storyteller working in Lagos currently. My biggest strength would be that I am very good at being a team worker. I am also really good at collaborating with people around me. I love to invest in people and their unique skills, which I'm doing currently the place where I work, Apogo, which is a leading tech, a leading tech business or company that helps other businesses abroad to work on tech solutions. I work with my team as a graphic designer to help them to convey that brand message better and more efficient to their clients everywhere. I'm also working in with the National Youth Service Commission as a welfare officer from my CDS, or what we call as a corps group, where we come together to help small businesses to be listed on Google and to have more reach or more customers online. My biggest weakness would be that I'm an over-analytic person. I really do overanalyze at times, which sometimes makes me to always obsess over details and to worry over things which are not going perfectly in my way. But that isn't something that I consider as what will stop me, because I know that it also helps me to do things in a proper manner, to analyze properly, and to make sure that I'm doing the right thing that will become better. So that is about me. Thank you.
You know, a lot of things are going on right in there. And I must commend you because I noticed where you hooked. But
Yeah.
stop. Now, you even laughed a little. You should have just continued. It doesn't matter. You guess, because if you didn't do that little laugh, we
Might not
would
have
have known
noticed.
that you hooked. So I hope you can see that point. So I commend you for continuing, because at some point your answers started getting more coherent because you persisted. But one thing I'm going to say is you're going to, again, practice makes perfect. This same question, you're going to take it and keep practicing. One thing I'm going to say is avoid, when you're in interviews, avoid speaking esoterically. Like, you know, I'm the kind of person who, don't say I'm the kind of person who, give them an example. Do you understand what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like, because now I'm trying to, I remember your weakness, but I can't really remember your strength right now. What was your strength?
Being a team person.
Okay, because you didn't,
Give an example.
you didn't give me an example. You understand what I'm saying? But I remember your weakness because you said that it helps you, that even though it could be a problem, it helps you to do something, you know, it helps you to do things well. And I remembered that. But I couldn't remember your strength because there was no example. You understand? So keep practicing, you know, and you did a good job as well of trying to contextualize where you work. But keep practicing, and the more you practice, the tighter your answers become. Okay. So the next two people.
Thank you, Praise. Just one more thing, Miriam, for praise. So
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I love your courage. I love it. Don't ever stop. Oh, did Faye freeze?
of analytic line of work that is solid. I hope that helps.
No,
Okay. Adetola, hello.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Faye. I'm Miriam.
Hi.
Good evening. Yep.
So your
Hello, Aladimeji, are you there?
can you hear?
I'm here.
Okay, your
Yeah,
question is, can you give an example of a leadership experience and what you learned from it?
okay. My name is Oladimeji Adetola, and sorry?
Go
Sorry,
ahead, please.
assume you have introduced yourself. Just go straight into the answer. Assume you've introduced yourself previously. So can you give us an example of a leadership position you were in, and what did you learn from it?
Lead for their And as a content leader, we've been able to create community-based projects and visual engaging designs for our community, both on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitter. And as a leader in the team, of several content media strategies, designs, and different people, and how to make appealing media, appealing content that is going to work
Sorry,
for our
sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't hear you from the beginning. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to start again. But I want you to realize that you're on a phone call. The energy is not energying.
Sit up.
Sit up, position yourself, arrange yourself. We cannot have spent the last 2 hours and you're not giving me E for energy. So I'm giving you an opportunity because I know you have what it takes. Don't do
sorry.
Are you define opportunity? So there's no cool guy when you're looking for opportunity. You have to be on. Oh yeah, put on your best Idris Elba for me and let's go.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Olajimi Adetola Ezekiel, and I am an accountant, graduated from University of Ilorin. I'm a creative thinker, and I've been a leader at Project Hope Nigeria, where I manage up as the team lead. As the team lead, I work with several departments, the outreach, welfare, content media, and the health departments, where we get to create community-based programs that impact several communities in Nigeria. Project Hope Nigeria is an organization that cares about humanity of the people, and we've created several projects that's worked in several states in Nigeria with over 2,500 beneficiaries as it stands. And as a leader, despite my competitive nature, I have exceptional cooperation skills and qualities because I have the ability to envision, create, and follow on projects from start to finish. We've completed several projects since the beginning of our inception last 2 years, and this been out there, it has helped me to acquire more skills. I listic visionary by common. Despite my zeal to actually help people, working with the team has actually helped me to learn about emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills. This has created a venue for me to learn how to deal with people, how to handle people, people management skills, time management skills, and how to make sure that our tasks, our projects are actually administered properly. Thank you.
Okay, Adetola, I'm going to take everything you've said and I'm going to rephrase it. Hi, I'm Adetola, and what's the question? Tell me about leadership experience and what you learned from it. I work with Project Hope, which is an organization that does the really amazing work of teaching people software skills that they can actually use to change their lives and, quite frankly, get themselves and their family out of poverty. Now, one of the projects that we had to do was to go to a high school to teach the students SQL. Now, I don't know whether you've dealt with teenagers before, but they're amazing, they're promising, but they don't necessarily listen all the time. So I had to have a special session with my team of 5 people that, since we're dealing with teenagers this time, we need to change our approach. We need to be relatable. We need to, approach them in such a way that they understand the impact that having a background in software so early can have on their future prospects. So I had 3 training sessions with my team. And we also invited a guidance counselor who has expertise with, teenagers to teach us how to communicate with students. We ended up implementing the program in 5 high schools where 75 students learned how to use SQL and Python. And I'm so pleased to let you know that I'm in touch with a few of them, and some of them are now studying computer science at university. So I really learned something from that experience that, as a leader, you need to be attuned to the situation your team is in at each point in time. I couldn't take all the experience I had training executives to training teenagers. We had to take a different approach, and I had to be dynamic. And doing this MBA, that's really one of the things, the skills I intend to hone here, how to be a responsive leader. I'm aware that Professor So-and-so teaches a course on responsive leadership, and that's one of the courses I'm really looking forward to taking. Is there a difference? You understand what I'm saying? It's the same experience, but you are going to need to hone the skill of telling your story. Don't just tell a story. Don't answer a question by giving a high level. Even if you don't remember me, you'll say, is that not the person that went to one secondary school that said something about teenagers? You will remember. They're interviewing many people. Tell a story. I'm begging you. If you don't take anything from this session, tell a story. And hone your story, please. Guys, that's the key. You are also talented, but if you can't tell your own story well, you will lose out. Do you have a promise? Do I have a promise that you guys are going to work on your stories? One more person, and then we can wrap up.
Okay, next person will be Faith. Faith, please unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
So Faith, what's your question? Your question is, tell me about the time you faced it. And I also bear in mind that this is me putting you guys on the spot. So the fact that you're volunteering is chef's kiss.
You're brave. Yes, we applaud your
You're
bravery.
already like 10,000 steps ahead. So the question I have for you is, tell me about the time when you faced a challenging situation. What did you learn from that?
All right, my name is Faith Obvera. I'm a graduate of English education from the University of Jos. I am deeply passionate about education. And in 2011, I graduated from school, but I failed my WAEC examination. And I was very, very disappointed with myself. And I had to learn how to pick myself up again. And while doing that, I had to go back to the table, had to re-strategize and learn how each of my steps could actually get me to where I want to be. So I practiced, did more of my best, and at the end of the day, I still failed WAEC. So WAEC is the exam body in Nigeria, it's an exam body in West Africa, rather. And sorry, and haven't failed that again.
What did you just say?
Sorry.
What?
Miriam, you're scaring her.
Don't you ever apologize. I'm telling you, because now it's like, I knew that you had gone off point a little, but don't apologize. Just find your way back. Now, I noticed what happened is you realize that, oh my God, WAEC, they may not know what WAEC is. Why am I saying WAEC 2 times or 3 times? Like, I get it, but bear in mind, this isn't something you've prepared for. Your interview, you're going to be prepared. Do you understand? And you will know the question that is coming. So in this case, you would have said, oh, you know, what was the question again?
My biggest failures or something like that.
So that's another thing. You actually didn't answer my question because I didn't ask about a failure. I asked about a challenge.
Oh.
You understand?
Okay.
So that's one thing I realized I didn't mention. There's a part where you need to make sure you are listening to and analyzing the question. Make sure you hear what the question is. And if the question is divided into 2 parts or 3 parts, make it clear you're answering the different parts. So I said, what is a challenge? And which is what the last speaker actually answered. He answered both parts of the question. I said, what's the challenge, a challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it? So in this case, I would say, you know, one of the biggest challenges, it might sound funny, but this was actually when I just was finishing high school. I had an exam that I had to write. You need to let them know it's WAEC. And at that time, I wasn't very good at mathematics, which might explain why I decided to become a storyteller. Ha, 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 ha. Do you understand what I'm saying? So yeah. I failed this exam, which had a lot to do with mathematics, and I'd never failed any exam before. Right. So it was a really challenging situation for me because I'd never had to deal with this before. And I needed to pass the exam to move to the next level in my education. So what I did was I went back to the drawing board and I said, what went wrong? I realized that I tried to do it on my own. I didn't ask for help. And I also didn't give myself enough time to prepare, considering the fact that I wasn't very good at mathematics. So what I did was I signed up for extra coaching. I also had a peer mentor who was also going to take the exam and we would study together. In addition, instead of preparing for 3 months, I prepared for my exam for 6 months. And it's not a surprise that the second time I did it, I passed. I really learned a lot from that experience. And the first thing I learned is that, like, I need to get comfortable with failure. The only people who don't fail are the people who never try. I tried, I failed, and I learned from that failure. And the next thing that I learned to do was to reach out for help. I'm not a silo, and we do life better when we do it with others. I reached out for help and I got the help I needed. The third thing I did was I prepared like my life depended on it. And that it ended up resulting into me passing my exam. Now, the qualities that I gained during that difficult period have stayed with me throughout my career. And that's why if you look through my resume, you will see that I won this award and I won that award. And that wasn't necessarily because I was naturally good at it, but it was because I was focused, I asked for help, and I gave myself enough time to make sure that I got the results that I wanted. Boom.
And this is how I intend to combat the challenges I will face in grad school.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Okay. Again,
Mhm.
you get better as you practice. I'm talking with a lot of years of experience. That's why it's coming to me like this. But you get better as you practice. I actually might have to leave, Faye. You know why? So
Yes.
let's try and finish up. Let's try and finish up so that we're actually almost done.
Yes, so we're on questions for the interviewer now.
Faye, why don't you take this? I'm right here.
Okay, great. So this one is something that people have already been talking about in the chat box, but basically make sure that you prepare questions to ask the interviewer. There might be time for that, there may not be time for that, but always go prepared. You want the questions to be personal or professional, and there's some examples I have put on the slides for you. One of it is, I read about the summer immersion program the research lab offers. Can you tell me more about it? So usually a lot of universities have extracurricular activities that different departments or schools offer. You can ask them about that. I'm interested in being a part of this during the summer. Can you let me know what it entails? You can also ask them, what kind of industries do alumni of this program go into? What are some of the opportunities that the department provides? You can ask, what kind of support do you have available for international students? And you can go even personal and ask the interviewer, what do you like the most about this department? Or what do you like the most about this school? And these are just some of the questions. To be honest, I don't think that there's too much, framework in it. Just make sure that you have one or two professional questions, one or two personal questions. Okay. Another one now is post-interview etiquette. So sometimes the person who interviews you would have sent you an email to let you know, I'll be interviewing you on this day and so on. And post-interview etiquette means, what do you do after? So after, you can thank the person on the call. Thank you, I very much enjoyed this conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing back from you. If you have the person's email, you can definitely do the same. Let the person know that you enjoyed the conversation. You can tell them what you especially enjoyed about it, and then give them 2 sentences summarizing why you are a good fit. You can also restate your interest in the program or the school or the scholarship. I know people will sometimes say, oh, but I don't know, the email of the person, I can't access the person. You can also find the person on LinkedIn. Sometimes some people are open to those kind of things. And if you can't find the person, that's fine. Just make sure that you have done your absolute best throughout the interview to leave a good impression. Anyway. Okay, so there's another, slide we have, which a lot of people have talked about, and one of it is, how do you ask for funding during an interview? Miriam, I'm passing this back to you.
Okay, so for this, it's a little tricky. Like, it depends on what you're applying for and all of that. But if funding is a question, I think it's a good opportunity to raise it. But you can only raise this question after having impressed them. You get what I'm saying? With all the things that we have talked about. That's my own perspective. Okay, so make sure you put all those things in place. You already know you're a valuable candidate, and then just ask, like, oh, one of the questions I really had about was whether there are other opportunities, for funding for students that join the department. I'm aware that there is this and this and this opportunity. Show that you have done the research. However, I'm not eligible for 1 and 2, but I'm eligible for this one. I wonder if there's any other opportunity, or if there are any offices that you can connect me with, with regards funding. Or you can ask very specifically and say that, I've heard that some students are able to supplement, the income during grad school by doing teaching assistantship positions. Can you please let me know how it works? I'm very interested in working as a teaching assistant. And this is something that I thought, I would get more clarity on while on the call. And the reason why I say it's important to ask about this is because when I was doing my PhD, I didn't even know I could really ask for funding. And I have a friend who asked and she got extra money, but I didn't know. So I think it's important that you ask, but don't go as if that's like the main thing. Like, see how I talked about the teaching assistant position. You get what I'm saying? That made sense. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Okay, I think Faye is frozen and I'm not controlling the slides. I wonder if I can ask to control her slides.
End of session.
Okay, so we're pretty much at the end, and I think what Faye was probably trying to say was, we have a graduate school bootcamp, as most of you already know. If you want to sign up for it, if you're just starting this process, maybe you're not already at the interview stage, you're thinking you are going to apply this September, don't do this thing on your own. Come with us, tested, trusted. We know what we're doing. We get our people into top schools. Harvard every year, our students are there. Cambridge every year, our students are there. So if you want to do this in a way that, yeah, I think Faye, we lost Faye. If you want to do this in a way that your results are, you have a higher chance of getting the results that you want, join us. The link to register will be in the bio. So a few questions that we got asked is, how do you convince a professor to give you a GA role? We've already talked about this. You literally have to ask. Then you can also book a meeting with them and demonstrate your knowledge of their research. You can't convince them, but you need to show them you're passionate. If you do these things, if you saw yourself the way I'm talking about, you will tell them how when you did a research project for one person, they called you to come and do 2 more. They're definitely going to want someone who's going to make their life easier. And for like an assistant role, you want to emphasize that I'm going to make your life easy. I'm going to make your life easy. Every example you give should be towards, I'm going to make your life easy if you give me this opportunity. So those are the kind of examples you should be curating. Another question, I know we've been here for 2 hours, so I really want to let you guys go. Do church activities matter in an interview? It does, but except you are trying to apply to be a theologian, I personally would not use my own church activities as an example personally. So people are able to do it, but if you do it, don't say, oh, I'm in Mountain of Fire, I'm in Redeemed Christian Church of God, and in our church, this is how we do monthly night vigil. Like, people may not be able to relate to that, especially somebody who is not from where you are exactly. So please make sure that if you're using any kind of religious activity, you're using it in such a way that it's sellable, right? But I personally don't do it. Yeah, Faye, is there any other question? Like, do we have questions that we can answer and then we can go off the recording and then we can just kind of talk informally? Chiamaka, how are you? Good to see you.
Yes, hi Miriam. Thank you so much. I mean, it's always amazing to join your sessions. But please, I have a question. So I have an interview coming up this week, on Monday actually. But I've written my responses to the questions. I followed all the guidelines of bootcamp and the like. But I'm worried that my questions are too long. Like, take for example, my introduction is like, oh, my name, my career field, because I'm transitioning into another career and I'm doing a PhD in that particular field. So in my introduction, I'm trying to explain, oh, I've done this, but I'm moving into this field because of this. And this is what led to my interest in this particular research. And I'm like, this is becoming too long. So I'm like, because I know that like that particular introduction can answer like 5 different questions. It answers, introduce yourself. It answers why this research. It answers why did you change careers. So how can one narrow it down to then pass the message simply, and then like the interviewers can then ask all those other questions without me preempting them?
Because I can't really help you very well. You know what? Can we stop the recording? So sorry if you're not here. Sorry. Bye. Thanks for joining us. Just so that you can speak more